Well, today we're going to talk about a bourbon that for whatever reason doesn't seem to get much love anymore. What exactly we're going to talk about today? Let's do that today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. So like I had mentioned, this is a bottle for me that for whatever reason doesn't seem to get nearly the traction that it used to. Now, stick with me on this. I understand that what we're looking at here has completely changed over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years, and rightfully so. But what exactly do I mean by kind of all of that? So again, we're going back kind of old school. So maybe some of you remember when this thing was between 12 and 15 bucks, was the old white label Heaven Hill Bottle and Bond 6-year. Everybody tried tracking that stuff down. Eventually got to the point where they stopped releasing it, stopped releasing really anything having to do with the Heaven Hill white label or bottle and bond for a little while. And then this bottle here was reintroduced going back maybe 3-4 years ago, something along those lines. Again, so what we're looking at here, if you're somehow unfamiliar, and again, I'm not really sure why this bourbon has kind of fallen out of favor, but you're talking about for, again, Heaven Hill Bottle and Bond, 100 proof, MSRP on this, about $50, give or take. I found this thing for about 45 bucks in my area. Mash bill, standard or typical of Heaven Hill, 78 corn, 10 rye, 12% malted barley. Again, age stated as 7 years. And really, I just kind of started thinking about, man, this was a bottle that I hadn't gone back to in a while and just did recently and got to thinking, why is this something that just isn't talked about nearly enough? I don't know if it has to do with now, you know, the price of this versus what it used to be, or just that it's 100 proof. But we're going to kind of tackle it a little bit today, and I'll kind of give you some of my thoughts on, you know, the nose, the taste, all of that. But then overall, why I think this is a bottle that really needs to be, you know, on everyone's bar. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kind of dive into this and kind of see exactly what the Heaven Hill Bottle and Bond 7-year has to offer. So again, as you can see, color-wise, this thing is, I mean, kind of a nice little medium amber type of color, moving the whiskey around the glass. Pretty decent oils for 100 proof. So, all right, let's go ahead and see what this one's going to nose like. So let me talk to you about ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic, why I use it, why I love it, why it's been an absolute game changer for me, and why I think it can be for you as well. The answer to why is simple. For me, it works. How easy is it to take? Simple. Open up the box that they send you, pull out one of the little bottles, give it a quick little shake, and down the hatch. It's as simple as that. And let the ZBiotics take over from there. So when do I use ZBiotics? Typically, I use it prior to doing any barrel picks, or if I'm going to be heading out for an evening and I know I'm going to be consuming a few alcoholic beverages. This is an easy solution. I know I'm going to feel my best and really allow me to be productive the following day. Now, a little bit more about ZBiotics. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to help tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for the rough next day. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. And just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, stay properly hydrated, and you'll feel your best the following day. Now the question, how do you get it? Simple. Check out the link in the description below or use code BourbonJourney15 at checkout and save 15% off your first order. And again, make sure you check out the link in the description below for 15% off your first order. And remember, if you're unsatisfied for any reason, there's a 100% money back guaranteed, no questions asked. And a big thank you to ZBiotics for sponsoring today's video. So for me, it just comes across as 400 proof, very, very well developed. Those fantastic like oak notes, almost like a sweet oak. You know, you get a little bit of that kind of like vanilla custard that's there. A little hint of that Heaven Hill kind of nuttiness that's there without it being overly dominant. Yeah, I'd say you get those kind of traditional tried and true like vanilla caramel notes, maybe a little hint of a tobacco note or a leather note that's there. Yeah, and a lot of times the leather and tobaccos kick in for me when you start to get that more or a little heavier on the oak side. I think the oak is definitely present on this without it being or feeling like over oaked. Yeah, the nose part of it, if I could give it like a balance scale, like I just feel like it's very well balanced. It's very approachable. It feels and smells like it's going to be something that would be very, very enjoyable. But we don't know that yet. Let's kind of get into that. We'll dive into what the palate has to offer right now. Cheers. So very, very similar to the palate. Oak, beautiful spice. Those vanilla custards are definitely there. I love where the spice kind of hits this. It's really mid to the back of the palate, while some of that kind of sweetness just kind of rolls over your tongue a little bit. Very, very approachable right off the first sip. Now here comes some of those like light to medium kind of caramel notes. Again, mixing or blending very well with a lot of that oak. Again, fantastic spice that it has. More of those kind of like vanilla custards, things along those lines. But now you start to get introduced to some of the like kind of like brown sugars, maybe a little hint of, again, that Heaven Hill nuttiness without it being, again, overly dominant, kind of like I was getting on the nose. This seems to have translated very well, or matching kind of what the nose is now on the palate. Now there's a little hint or a touch of dryness. So oftentimes I equate that to some leathers, tobaccos, not overly dominant. It's just mingling very well with that kind of oak, vanilla, caramel. So it's just, it all seems to be very cohesive. It's working very, very well. And at this point, this feels like one of those bourbons that you'd want to recommend to a lot of people. I know there are a lot of people who really enjoy cask strength bourbons, but for those days that maybe you don't want to drink a higher proof, I feel like this is a bourbon that at 100 proof kind of punches above its belt. Like I feel like you're getting a little bit more with this at 100 proof than you will with some other things. So from a value standpoint, at around 50 bucks, this starts to feel for me like a nice value for that everyday kind of bourbon. And it just seems to offer everything that you could kind of want in a bourbon that's 100 proof. And like I said, I feel like this is something that punches above its belt. So, hopefully that kind of helps a little bit if you were ever on the fence or had maybe really either never got a chance to try the old 6-year, white label bottle and bond. Well, now that they've reintroduced this, and I think again at 50 bucks, give or take, it offers a pretty good value. I think that those overall flavor profiles that it has makes this a very drinkable, a very crushable kind of bourbon. Now, if we address kind of the mouthfeel, I wouldn't say it was the most oily. There's a little bit of a thinness to it, but the spice and the oak, the caramels, the vanillas, all of those linger long enough to make this feel like a finish that is probably medium plus. And I think it's probably better than a lot of other bourbons at 100 proof. I just feel like that oak presence is allowing for just all of those other flavors to kind of work extremely well. So in my opinion, I don't think that this is a bourbon that, from my standpoint, again, that I could recommend enough. I feel like it has that tried and true bourbon profile that is very, I guess I'll say, approachable, or just something that will work for the masses, for the general population, in terms of this being a bourbon that is just very approachable, easy to drink. You know exactly what it is you're going to get. So with that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Heaven Hill 7-year bottle and bond. Is this something that you enjoy? Is it something that you pass on? Is it too expensive, knowing that this thing used to be, 12 or 15 bucks, back several years? Have you never had this? So I'd love to hear kind of the baseline for this new or newish Heaven Hill bottle and bond 7-year. So with that, make sure you leave a comment below. Again, I'd love to hear from you on all of that. So with that being said, thank you guys and ladies for tuning in today. Greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook and Instagram, those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel and or become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, make sure you check out that Patreon link in the description below. That down there with a lot of other great things for you as well. So with that being said, thank you again so much for tuning in today. And as always, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.
Take it all, it's never